Hello and welcome to the channel. Today's video we're going to be working inside of command prompt or command line or batch or CMD, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to be showing you how to create a file, delete a file, and copy a file, all in command prompt. So obviously our first step is to open up command prompt. So if we just come in here and type in command, there it is, command. We see it here, and I do believe you need administrator privileges. I'm not 100% sure if this would work without it. Anyways, the first thing we're going to start with is how to make a file. But to do that, you have to understand how to just write text. So in command prompt, we use echo, and then after that, we type out whatever. So we type in hello world. It's going to print to the console hello world as such. Do this and how are you? The display is how are you to the console. Now we're going to use echo, but we're also going to give it a location. Now there's two ways of doing this. One is we write out the entire directory. Two is we just make command prompt work in the directory we want to work in. So for example, we do echo hello world. We're going to put two greater than symbols, and this is where we'll write out our directory. So if we went C users 7 desktop. Now this is telling it that we're going to take this text and write it, and we're going to put it in the C drive, and within the C drive go to the users folder. Inside the users folder go to the T7 folder, and then inside that go to the desktop folder, which is our desktop out here, and but now we have to give this file a name. So we're going to name it test, and we have to give the file extension, otherwise it just creates itself as a blank file. By putting .txt, it's telling the computer to create it as a actual text file. So now if I hit enter, it does exactly that. Took this text, went to this directory, made a test.txt folder since there was none in here, and wrote that text in it. Now, if we were to try to do this again, but we'll put, how are you? And then we do the same directory, desktop, test.txt. So now we're saying take how are you, and go to this directory and find this file. Now, when we first did it, when it went to desktop, this file was nowhere here. It was nowhere on the desktop. So it created one and then put that text in it. This time, this file does exist. It's on the desktop. It exists in the desktop. Now, if this was documents, there's no test.txt in my documents, so it would create a new file. But since we do have a test.txt on my desktop, right here, the one we just created, it's not going to create a new one. It's just going to put how are you inside of it. Do that, open this, now how are you is also in there. So that's pretty much creating the file. The other way of doing it, I'll delete this, is by putting your command prompt already in the desktop, or working inside the desktop. So right now we're just working inside of my profile folder, which has access to everything: documents, pictures, music, desktop, all that. But if we tell it to specifically work inside the desktop, if we do cd desktop, now it's only functioning within the desktop. So now if I did echo hello world / two greater than symbols, now we don't have to set out an entire directory, because we don't need to tell it to go to desktop, because we're already working inside of the desktop. So now we just give it a file name, test.txt, and there it is right here, and with hello world in it. Alright, so here I start talking about how you can't use spaces, and that's not necessarily true. It was late and I was tired, so I didn't even think about it. But there's actually several ways you can include spaces. Either you can encapsulate the file name that's in the directory within quotes, or you can encapsulate the entire directory inside quotes, and that would also work. You would also do this if you had a folder that had a space in the name.
just had to cover that. On with the video.
Bear in mind, when working with this, in command prompt we can't have spaces. So if I were to make this, I'm going to get an error. See? Or it's not an error, but it's not going to come out as we want, because it's just taking this first text. And once it sees a space, it forgets everything. It drops everything after the space. That's why the name doesn't have text in it. It's just test. And that's why we don't have the .txt, and it came as a blank file. Oh, get out of here. So, in that case, we have to fill in the gap, which you've probably seen if you use a computer a lot. It's usually filled in with a underscore, and there we go. Oh, what is that? Oh, okay, slightly delayed, but here it is. Now, let's get rid of that. Now we created files. Why am I having such a hard time clicking? There we go. Now we created files. We're going to continue working in desktop. Actually, I'm going to show you how to get out of just working inside desktop. If you do cd, you can just bring yourself back to your folder. And there you go. Now we're working back in where we started, and we can do, obviously, your computer name would go here, so if your computer name is Steve, you would do user/Steve, or however you named your computer. And you can also bring yourself to different things, so I can do documents. Now I'm working inside the documents folder of my profile. By the way, hitting up allows you to scroll back on the previous commands you've done, up on the arrow key. I can do cd music, cd pictures. I can pretty much work in any folder that's within my profile folder. But yeah, we're going to go back to the desktop. Now, let's create a file again. World. And test text.txt. Alright, we have our thing here. Now we want to copy it to a folder. So I'm going to create, okay. Sorry about that. I don't know why my computer did that, but it did. Anyways, now we want to copy our test text file to another location. So I'm just going to create a folder here on my desktop. I'm going to name it test folder. Now, remember, can't take spaces, so I put the hyphen in there. So now we're going to do the copying process, which is pretty easy. We're working in desktop, so we don't have to supply a directory. So we're just going to do copy test text.txt. If we weren't working inside the desktop, we would have to do copy and then C drive users, name of your profile, desktop, then test text.txt. But we're in desktop, so we don't have to do that. Copy test text.txt, and then give a directory in which to copy this file to. So users, desktop, and test folder. So test_folder. There you go, one file copied. Now come in here. There it is. It copied the file. Hello world. Hello world. Now, say we copied it to the wrong location. We don't want it in here. Obviously, you can just go into the folder and delete it, but we're working in command prompt right now. So, we're going to delete it out of there. We're going to do del, which is the abbreviated form of delete. Now we have to give what file we want to delete. Now if we just did this here while working inside the desktop, it's going to delete the file here. Now notice it doesn't put it in the recycling bin, so be careful. we didn't want that deleted. We want the one in here deleted. So we have to do /users / desktop / test folder / test text.txt. There we go. It's deleted. Alright, so I'm just gonna create a file here real quick called test. And I want to actually test something. Can I just do /test folder / test.txt? Is that something I can do? Haven't actually tried it. What if I got rid of? Oh, hey, look at that. So you can actually just not do all that if you're in the desktop. Instead of doing this entire this directory, you can just type in the file name or folder name and then the file. So I'll show it again. Test. We do del test folder / test.txt and delete it that way, because which makes sense because we're already in the desktop, so we don't have to write up that entire thing again. And that's all the basis of what I wanted to show you for this video. We created a file, we copied a file, and we deleted a file. This is more for fun because we don't really need to use we don't really have to type all this through the command line anymore, since we have icons and stuff we can click on, but it's still kind of good to know just in case things are just not working out. Yeah, anyways, I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed, and that's it for now, so I'll see you in the next video.